I never thought I would be the kind of person writing one of these posts. My wife Emily and I have been together since we were 18, high school sweethearts who actually made it past graduation, past the chaos of early adulthood, past the financial struggles and life changes that take down most young relationships. We moved into this small town because it felt safe, like a place where love could breathe without the world trying to suffocate it. We built a life here, a modest house with a garden she loved, a dog who acts like he pays the mortgage, and Sunday dinners with my best friend Jake, who lived just down the street. People saw us as the couple who made it, the ones who figured out how to stay in love through everything. I believed it too. I believed we were unbreakable. 15 years together, 10 years married, 1,000 promises whispered in the dark. I thought we were happy. I thought she was happy. Turns out I didn't know as much as I thought. It wasn't anything dramatic at first, just tiny moments that didn't feel right. She started guarding her phone like it was classified information. Before, she would leave it anywhere, screen up, never caring if I saw a message pop through. Suddenly, her screen was always face down, locked, notifications silent. She started going out with co-workers more often, even though she used to complain about them constantly. Her excuses felt paper thin, but I kept telling myself I was imagining things. Emily had always been loyal. She had always chosen us. Then there was Jake. He was around a little more than usual. Not that it was strange for him to drop by, but the way they laughed together, it had a different tone, softer, almost intimate. I remember brushing it off, telling myself I was being insecure, jealous, stupid. Jake was my best friend. He would never cross that line. I trusted them both more than I trusted my own instincts, which, looking back, might have been the first mistake. As weeks went by, those subtle shifts turned into something harder to ignore. She would come home late with flimsy explanations. Sometimes she smelled like a different cologne, not mine, not hers. When I asked how her night was, she often answered too quickly, like she had practiced it. Jake started dodging me too. If I mentioned plans, he suddenly had errands. If I asked about Emily, he stumbled over his words. Two people who had always been open with me now felt like they were speaking a language I wasn't meant to understand. Nights got colder even when she was lying right beside me. She stopped reaching for my hand in the dark. Our conversations turned into logistics, bills, groceries, schedules. The affection disappeared with nothing but silence left behind. I kept trying to explain everything away. Stress from work, the monotony of daily life. Maybe I wasn't giving her enough attention. Maybe I was the one creating distance. I didn't want to believe that the people I loved most could be the ones hurting me. I didn't want to believe the obvious. One night I woke up and she wasn't in bed. I found her in the living room, sitting in the dark, her phone glowing in her hand. She flinched when she saw me, quickly locking the screen. She claimed she couldn't sleep, that she was just scrolling. Her voice shook. I nodded, pretending that made sense. After she went back to bed, I sat there alone, staring at the spot where she had been. I knew something was wrong. Really wrong. The kind of wrong that ruins lives. The next day, I tried to talk to her. I asked if she was unhappy, or if I had done something. She brushed it off with a tired smile, told me I was overthinking, kissed my cheek like she always had. Except even that kiss felt different. It felt like a goodbye she wasn't ready to say out loud. That was the moment I stopped lying to myself. I needed answers. I deserved the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The truth didn't come crashing down in some dramatic movie scene. It slipped out quietly when she forgot to take her phone with her. She had rushed out to buy milk one morning, leaving it unlocked on the kitchen counter. I shouldn't have looked. I know that I still did. The first thing I saw was a message notification from Jake. My stomach dropped before I even tapped the screen. When I opened their chat, everything inside me shattered. There were weeks of messages, teasing, flirting, then explicit photos. I saw details of their meetings, hotels a town over, excuses they planned together so I wouldn't get suspicious. Worse than all of it were the messages where they talked about me, jokes about how clueless I was, Jake saying he wished she would leave me, Emily telling him she was working up to it. Every sentence felt like a punch straight to the chest. I stood there, phone shaking in my hand, feeling like the world had tilted. My wife, my best friend, the two people I trusted most had carved into me with a shared knife. In that moment, I felt like I didn't know either of them at all. I didn't react right away. I couldn't. My body felt numb, like I had stepped outside of myself. I placed the phone back exactly where she left it, because some part of me still wanted to believe this was a nightmare I could wake up from. I waited for her to come home. Every minute felt like an hour. I rehearsed what I would say, but none of the words sounded real in my head. I kept picturing her smiling at me like nothing was wrong, and I wondered how long she had been perfecting that lie. When she finally walked through the door, grocery bag in hand, she smiled like she always did. I asked her to sit down. My voice cracked, even though I tried to hold steady. I watched her face carefully as I mentioned Jake's name. Just a small test before the explosion. Her smile faltered. She looked tired, guilty. That was enough. I told her I saw everything. She didn't deny it. Not even for a second. She cried. I didn't. Maybe I was too far past tears at that point. Emily kept saying she didn't mean for it to happen, that she still loved me, that she felt lonely even when she was right beside me. She blamed miscommunication, routine, the slow erosion of passion after years together. She blamed herself. She blamed us. Every word felt like another excuse. I asked her if she loved him. She didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. I asked her how many times. She tried to downplay it until I repeated what I saw in the messages. Then she admitted it had been going on for months. Months. She reached for my hand, like she thought physical contact could glue back the pieces she had broken. I pulled away because I couldn't stand to feel her skin on mine, not after what she had done with him. I told her I needed time. It was the only thing I could think to say, while my heart was trying to tear itself out of my chest. I knew I couldn't avoid Jake. He deserved to look me in the eyes after everything he helped destroy. I called him that same evening and told him to come over. He hesitated, which told me he already knew the truth had surfaced. When he arrived, he stood on my porch like a stranger, shoulders stiff, eyes darting away from mine. The guilt on his face was almost unbearable to look at. I didn't yell. I didn't swing. I just asked him why. Why would he betray the one person who trusted him like a brother? He stumbled over his words, trying to justify it, claiming they caught feelings, that he didn't mean for it to go this far. It didn't matter how he tried to dress it up. The betrayal was the same. He kept saying he was sorry. I told him sorry didn't change anything. He tried to step closer, maybe to hug me or plead his case, but I stepped back. I told him we were done. Friendship doesn't survive a wound like this. Watching him leave felt surreal, like I was letting go of a whole part of my life, a part I thought would always be solid. It turned out that nothing was as solid as I believed. Once the confrontations were over, the real pain hit. It felt like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left a hollow space where my life used to be. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept replaying moments in my head, trying to figure out when everything went wrong, trying to see if there was something I missed earlier, something I could have done differently. Every memory became tainted. The vacations, the late night talks, even our wedding day. I wondered if she ever truly loved me the way I loved her, or if I was just a safe option she settled for until something more exciting came along. Shock turned into anger. Anger turned into heartbreak. Heartbreak turned into a slow, heavy numbness. I would look at her and feel two entirely opposite things. The love built over 15 years, and the pain from her choices, crushing that love one splinter at a time. She kept apologizing. She kept saying she wanted to fix this. I wanted to believe her, but trust, once broken like this, doesn't patch up with promises. I kept asking myself the same question on repeat. What am I supposed to do now? If the confrontations were over, the real pain hit. It felt like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left a hollow space where my life used to be. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept replaying moments in my head, trying to figure out when everything went wrong, trying to see if there was something I missed earlier, something I could have done differently. Every memory became tainted. The vacations, the late night talks, even our wedding day. I wondered if she ever truly loved me the way I loved her, or if I was just a safe option she settled for until something more exciting came along. Shock turned into anger, anger turned into heartbreak, heartbreak turned into a slow, heavy numbness. I would look at her and feel two entirely opposite things. The love built over 15 years, and the pain from her choices, crushing that love one splinter at a time. She kept apologizing. She kept saying she wanted to fix this. I wanted to believe her, but trust, once broken like this, doesn't patch up with promises. I kept asking myself the same question on repeat. What am I supposed to do now? Realized that no matter how much I loved her, the foundation of our marriage, trust, was shattered. I couldn't pretend it wasn't. Every time I looked at her, I saw the lie. Every time I thought of Jake, I felt the betrayal. Staying would mean living in a house filled with reminders of their choices, replaying their faces and messages in my mind for the rest of my life. I tried imagining forgiveness, tried imagining reconciliation, but I couldn't. My love for her hadn't disappeared, but it was buried under a pile of hurt and disbelief I couldn't climb out from. I kept thinking about my self-respect, about the message it would send to myself if I stayed. Somewhere in the middle of those nights of endless thinking, I knew what I had to do. It was terrifying, heartbreaking, and yet strangely liberating. I had to leave, not because I stopped loving her, but because I had to save the part of me that deserved honesty and respect. Leaving meant breaking apart a life we built, but it also meant reclaiming my dignity and the possibility of finding peace again. The morning I decided to leave, I told her. She was quiet, almost frozen, as if she had been waiting for this moment, but didn't want it to come. I explained that I couldn't stay in a life where love had been traded for deceit, where trust had been replaced with lies. She begged, she cried, she promised she would change, that she would prove herself worthy of me again. I listened, my chest tight, heart aching. Part of me wanted to believe her, to run back into her arms and pretend the betrayal never happened, but I couldn't. I told her goodbye, not with hatred, but with the quiet pain of someone who still loves deeply, but knows it's no longer safe to remain. I packed my things, not in anger, but in clarity. Every step I took away from that house felt like stepping into the air after being underwater for too long. Scary, uncertain, but necessary. It was over, not with a bang, but with the heavy silence of finality. The first few days alone were brutal. The house felt empty in ways I hadn't imagined. Every corner reminded me of what was lost, and every sound outside the walls felt like it was mocking the life I used to have. I cried more than I thought possible, not just for the betrayal, but for the life I had envisioned that would never happen. Friends and family tried to comfort me, but there's a loneliness in betrayal that no one else can touch. Even Jake's absence felt like a hollow echo. The man who was supposed to be my brother in arms had turned into the architect of my heartbreak. Yet slowly, tiny by tiny, I started to reclaim myself. I cooked my own meals, went on long walks through the small town streets we used to walk together, and slept in my own space without the weight of lies pressing down. I realized that grief is also a teacher. It forced me to confront who I was, what I deserved, and what I would no longer tolerate. For the first time in months, I started feeling something else: clarity, a quiet, steady kind of strength that comes from choosing yourself when everyone else has failed you. Looking back, I understand more about love than I ever did before. Love is not blind. Love is not unconditional when it comes at the cost of self-respect. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it leaves scars that no amount of apologies can fully erase. I also learned that betrayal doesn't just hurt in the moment, it changes your lens forever. You see people differently, even those you once held closest. You carry the knowledge of what's possible, and it makes you wiser, if a little harder. Most of all, I learned that forgiveness isn't always about reconciliation. Sometimes forgiveness is about freeing yourself from anger and resentment so that you can move forward. You can forgive someone in your heart without letting them stay in your life. I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago. I don't want to be. I've grown painfully, but I've grown into someone who knows their worth and refuses to settle for less. I've started building a new life, slowly, carefully, with intention. I keep the lessons of the past close, not as chains, but as reminders of what I will never compromise again: my dignity, my trust, and my peace of mind. I still think about Emily sometimes. Part of me mourns what we had, the years of shared laughter and quiet love. But the larger part of me knows I made the only choice that allowed me to survive this heartbreak intact. Love is beautiful, but it's also dangerous when misplaced. Trust is precious, and betrayal is a wound that doesn't fully heal, only reshapes you. I've learned to love myself in ways I never did before, to protect my heart fiercely, and to recognize when walking away is the bravest act of all. In the end, I'm still capable of love, but now I know that love without respect is nothing at all. I've chosen myself, and for the first time in a long time, that feels like the beginning of something real.